Well, aloha kakahiaka, everybody.
Kaka what?
Kak
Aloha kakahiaka.
Kakahiaka there, Chris. Right back at you.
I feel like I should be adopted into Hawaiian culture at this point, but I'm just not. Having visited there a couple of times does not make me a Hawaiian.
Hawaiian.
I'm not even sure what to say to that. Aloha and mui mahalo. There you go.
Mui.
There you go. We're going with it. We're going with it. It's a melting pot of cultures.
I love it.
Whatever we say goes.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming back, joining us again. Riot's Capital here. And we are doing a special episode today on financial planners, how to choose a financial planner, how to find one that meets your goals and is actually giving you specialized advice in what it is that you want to be investing in. An example is, I'll just share briefly, when you ask your business attorney a question on IRS tax law and they say, I don't know, let's go get an IRS tax attorney, which happens to me a lot. You might have your CPA consulting with different kinds of attorneys, and they're going to be trying to find a specialist who does what you need to do. Same thing with the CPAs. We have had CPAs who gave us really bad advice because they didn't understand complicated real estate transactions. And so we would have to switch because we just recognized that not that they're bad people or that they're bad at their job, they're just not good at this particular specialty. And as we moved more in this direction, we'd have to make sure that our professional group that we were relying on for advice was keeping up with the direction that we were moving, especially if we were diverging from their specialty, we'd have to go find a new one. And so the same thing happens with certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. They are all going to have certain kinds of specialties. And how do you find one that matches what you're going to be doing? So Chris, let's start with you. When you were a corporate executive, you're doing your 401k plan and you're only in public stock markets and you hired a certified financial planner. Can you tell us about that experience, where you were happy with that planner and then maybe where things started to diverge?
First off, no legal or tax advice here. Just our experiences. Super excited to be that best ever as well. So that's always awesome. But as far as my personal experience, we went through, I think with the 401k. So again, normal corporate executive job, had a 401k, Roth IRA, and you're normally locked into certain mutual funds that so normally on a 401k, you're super limited, like super limited. You're even more limited if you would go on like Robinhood or those different sites. You try to diversify in between what you know. Even that's limited because you don't know. You normally don't have a financial advisor on an employee-sponsored 401k.
But what I saw on our employee-sponsored 401k, when I went in to go choose a plan, there were like 4 plans in the drop-down menu, but I could only pick one. So it's not like I even had access to all 4. I got one choice.
Well, see, even more limited. Normally ours, my experience is that you would go in and you would still diversify between different mutual funds and you'd have to research what the mutual fund was. Some of it came out of emerging markets. Some of them were domestic stocks, and then they would still diversify between different things. So it was really hard. You had to do a lot of information, a lot of digging to understand it. I think a lot of times it's what you said. You just pick a checkbox and then keep your fingers crossed and hope something good happens.
Yes. And what I really wanted in there was just an S&P 500 index fund. It wasn't in there.
I don't think those exist either.
Like a cheap thing that just tries to mirror the market. That's what I wanted. But I had to choose a fund that had fees that wasn't even outperforming the S&P. That
normally
was
the 401ks have pretty significant fees as well. So it is somewhat limited, but my contention is if you have some kind of employee match, still do it. Because at that point, it's free money. If they're going to double the money that you're going to put in there, why not? That's already 100% return on your money.
We have negotiated that match away for an increased salary. So we've done some things like that before. So if they won't do that, we will take the match. But if they would give us an increased salary in exchange for not participating in the employee stock purchase plan or the 401k, then we always would take the higher salary.
So we also went through, back to your original question, we went through, and I went through several M&As, so mergers and acquisitions in my career. And I was on both sides of the spectrum. So my company was acquired and where we acquired companies. And typically what would happen is once the acquiring company picks you up, or even if you leave your job, normally then you have access to be able to take that 401k and roll it over into an IRA account, which is what I did. So we had several $100,000 sitting in a 401k that we then rolled over to I want to say it was an Edward Jones, not bashing any one person, but I want to say it was an Edward Jones. I really liked the gentleman, was a really nice guy. We connected on a personal level. So I guess it's part of why you pick your financial planners. And then life catches up, business catches up, and you get to the point where you set it and forget it. You find somebody that you trust, and then you forget about it. Okay, they'll call you on your birthday and tell you happy birthday. Maybe once a year, you go back and review your plan, see how it did, and maybe make some adjustments and change it. If the market is maybe a little cuckoo, like it is right now, they'll maybe give you a call and say, "Yeah, let's move some out of the stocks and put some into the money market." And that's how normally how the relationship would work. I would say for the most part, like that's what it was. I think the pivotal moment for us was when I went back and looked to see, and I didn't do it too often, so it's more my fault than anything. But I went back to see exactly what our returns were, and it obviously it ebbs and flows, right? You have years where you have like phenomenal returns, and then you have years where you have not so phenomenal returns, even sometimes losses. So when we're looking at it, I said, okay, what is I think I went back and looked at my 1 year was like phenomenal. I was like 20, 25%, but I was like, okay, wait, I had my money with you for probably close to 7 to 10 years. What does my total return profile look like? And it was at like 5%. I was like, that barely beats the money mark. That barely beats what the 10-year treasury is currently at. So I was like, I have to be able to manage my money, and be able to do more with my money. So that was a pivotal moment for us. I don't know if Harmony had a different experience.
No, because I was one who didn't pay attention to any of that
Nor
stuff.
did I. So
No, but even more,
Even less.
yeah, it was even less. In all fairness, when I was in the medical field for 10 years, a lot of it was as a temp hire. And so they hire and fire you every month. So I didn't have those benefits until later on. And then when I started my contract with the military, that's when I was like, okay, I have 401k, big deal. I didn't think much of it. And then one of my coworkers, he was like a veteran. He says, why are you not matching it? They all pulled him out one day, and I'm like, I don't even understand this stuff. I don't look at it. I just know I'm supposed to have it. And he was like, why are you not matching it? You are throwing away money. So that's when I went and made the changes, started matching it. And then the military has their own financial advisors. And she came and looked at mine, and she's, nope, we need to make all these changes and adjustments. And it started to do a lot better performance. It still wasn't huge, but it was enough to where I was like, oh, wow, my number went from down here to here, and it looked better. I was like, this is my account is starting to look better. I started to notice the growth. And it wasn't until way later, because when my contract would change and I go to a new contract, I would forget to roll it into the new contract. I didn't even look at it. Just one of those things that you set it, forget it, and then you regret it, because then it's like you throw away all of that money sitting there and not understanding it. And it wasn't because I didn't have the opportunities. It's just because I didn't take the time. Because you think, okay, your job offers you benefits, that's good enough. And I think that's just the average person until they become more educated with understanding what a 401k is and how you can leverage it and all of those fun things that we know now.
Yeah. It's interesting because Troy and I have never had a financial planner, actually. So when we were in the public markets through the 401k, or even in our rollover plans, because we would roll it over from that employee sponsored plan, but then we would just keep it at Fidelity or whatever and just invest it. We had a broader range of what we could choose outside of the employer plan. But I spent a lot of time researching the stock market, probably early on in our marriage, college, early on. And I just came to the conclusion, like, you can't beat the index. So I'm not even going to try. I'm not a genius. The people who were beating the index were doing it by less than 1%. And yet they were incurring huge fees and expenses trying to beat alpha. And I just felt like this is just a waste of time. And so I never felt like a financial planner could help me beat alpha, because I felt like almost nobody can. And it just wasn't worth all the extra management time. So I was on the set it and forget it, just go with the index. So we've never had a financial planner, because when we finally started getting into private markets where we felt like we needed some guidance, we couldn't find any financial planners who had any knowledge of the private markets. I don't know, Troy, do you want to elaborate on that at all, or how you felt about our retirement and money management, doing it on our own without a planner?
I guess we had a planner. We actually,
You mean me?
We
No.
no, you're not allowed to touch the money.
Because I won't let you spend any of it if I do.
Right. Yeah, we did end up talking to a guy that early on that kind of helped point us in the right direction of just how to manage our own personal finances. I think that was probably the most valuable conversation we ever had. And
I don't remember this conversation.
oh yeah, I can't remember the guy's name.
It was the most valuable conversation
He's ever had.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe jog my memory. Give me some
Well,
context.
He went through and had us put all of our needs and wants on a spreadsheet and kind of help us break down and understand where our money's going and where we could tighten it up or whatever we want to do. Even gave us some good advice on how to create additional savings accounts and section off your money as it comes in so that you're not spending the money that needs to go to a specific purpose. So that was really helpful. He also suggested that
Was this a class that we took with our mortgage lender?
no, it wasn't with mortgage. There was somebody that we had met
Kind of Dave Ramsey philosophy, I seem to recall,
right the same type of thing.
where it was live on less than you make. Every dollar has a name, but don't overextend or over leverage on your mortgage.
Yeah,
And I felt like we finally got some direction. I think I remember what you're talking about, but
That doesn't sound like really good advice, though.
And he wasn't a financial planner.
it is good advice, but I think that what gets you here is not going to get you there. That was what kind of got us out of our we'll just don't spend any money type of attitude. Get everything as cheap as you possibly can and just save up. And then when you have a disaster, maybe hopefully you can weather it.
And then when you pass away, you have a huge casket full of money. Is
Oh,
that
goodness.
That's right.
Yeah, but we were still kind of
I
living
mean,
paycheck to paycheck.
that's how we were taught, though. That's the generations before us, right? It's you get a
Save
good
time.
job, you get good benefits, and either with my parents where they didn't have good pay and all of that, it was a month to month struggle, or my grandparents where they have great benefits, they have good paying jobs, but they were also with the cash and the cushions. Like we put them in the couch, they put them in that was their 401k. Like that was
Right.
their own self-directed IRA. So
Yeah.
you think that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of the times it is you get it and you forget it because you have it. And it wasn't about getting yourself super educated. Because if it was, I think back in the day, we would have seen financial planners being more in front of us. I
Yeah.
think that we would have had them. It would have been more prevalent in your everyday, but it wasn't. And I think with the evolution of where we're at today, it's just there's so much more that you can do with it. And I think that they weren't even aware of it back then.
Yeah, my dad had a pension. He worked for Boeing for
Mhm.
decades and he retired with a
Yeah.
401k and a pension. And so that was pretty normal, I feel like. But you and I, Troy, we knew we were not winning at money. We just didn't know. We thought it was an income problem because Dave Ramsey always says your biggest wealth building tool is your income. And so since I wasn't working or I was just working little hobby jobs and you were making the main income in our family, but still not great. We weren't making over 6 figures until probably 2018. And so we knew we were not winning at the money game. We would look at our IRAs, we would see we had $100,000 and we're like, nobody's going to be able to retire on this, but we didn't know what to do other than just try to figure out how to make more money. Which I think is what I ended up doing in real estate. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go start a real estate business. I'm going to make more money by buying rentals, raising capital from other people. We did well selling our Texas house and I used that as seed money. So I finally felt like I'd hit on the income side of things by being able to make more. But then when I realized the value of a financial planner and somebody who could actually help us was in the private markets, that's when it really became apparent because there's no way to play the index in private markets. There's no index. There's no way to manage that. There's no dashboard. There's no Robinhood you can log into and see all of your private investments in one place, be able to manage those and see your blended returns. Private is kind of like picking individual stocks where you really have to research each individual company, each individual fund that you're going in. And I think that while we have a lot more in our control, I still don't think we can beat the index on private, but there's no way you can just buy an index fund in private. So I felt, okay, I have to be much more informed here so that I can try and approach that private index as closely as possible, which is better than the public index, but not a whole lot. So I was shooting public markets, maybe 10% with inflation down to 6 to 8%. And then in private markets, I was like, I can easily do 10%, probably 12 to 14 is what I was targeting for the index there. And that's when I started spending more time with people teaching me how to buy private market securities, because to me, that was a secret of doing better, at least than the S&P 500. So that's when I started to realize when we were raising capital from our own investors and they were saying, I'm going to talk to my financial advisor about it. Of course, I want you to talk to your financial advisor about it. But it didn't take me very long to figure out that financial advisor would always come back and be like, no real estate, that's too risky. Just buy a REIT on the public market, because they didn't understand. And so they were getting advice from the wrong people. So how did your financial planner relationship change once you're like, we need to start adding some private stuff in here? How did you find people to help you?
It's actually funny
It was a
because
fun conversation.
yeah, when we first had the conversation, obviously he wasn't overly excited because we pulled all our money out. And you
Yeah.
gotta understand, I think it's important to understand it's all different. So depending on what the company, the organization, or the RA you go with, their compensation levels, sometimes they're different. They're not all the same, but typically they get compensated off of the money that they
that you
bring in.
have.
So
Yeah.
Like
th-
their
th-
assets under management.
yeah, like
Yeah.
assets under management. And then I would think there's pros and cons the way you look at it on if you want to move your money out into a different asset that they don't manage, that's less money for them.
So
However,
they're going to tell you it's too risky. They
they're
don't
going
even say, I'm not the right person for this. Let's find an expert who is. They just
Yeah,
tell you not to do
I
it.
think a lot of them get into the field with not understanding what else is out there
But-
outside of what it is.
However, after we moved over and he started seeing some of the
Yeah.
returns that we were
Oh,
doing, we were
really?
explaining to him,
Yes.
he called us back up and
He's
he was
like-
very super interested in. I don't know if he ever transitioned over into more alternative
don't know.
assets, but when he found out the types of returns we were getting, obviously, so you
his,
look at
his eyes and everything.
yeah,
worked.
so-
Really?
He was
yes,
very
it was a
intrigued.
super interesting and
That's-
intriguing conversation. But I think it's more of what you said, like you don't know what you don't know, and that's for everyone. So like we're proponents of just trying to educate yourself, get out there, because we still like you, we still invest in the equity market. It's not like we were completely out of the equity market. We were talking about looking at another financial planner and maybe moving some money over with them and set it and forget it. Because again, it's a lot of it just about diversification. But when you're looking at it, and I preach this a lot, when you're looking at it, you look at kind of the risk that you're taking on, because there is risk. There's going to be risk no matter what you do. You could, I guess, just put it under your bed and there might not be risk.
There's
you
still
could-
risk
risk
because
of fire,
inflation.
flood.
No,
I mean,
there's
yeah,
still
fire,
risk.
flood, yeah.
You're losing out with inflation.
Yeah.
You're losing.
Hopefully-
You have
hopefully you have good
fire
flood
and all of that
insurance.
stuff. Yes.
Yeah, there's
There's
I mean,
always risk.
there's always some kind of risk. That's true.
You bury a
But,
hole
and
in
I
the
feel
ground
like
and then you
that's
forget where it was.
that's riskier than debt investing because you
Oh,
at least have something
yeah.
collateralized where
That's
Yeah.
true.
your money's in your mattress and tomorrow your dollar is not a dollar.
That's
Well,
true.
yeah.
Yeah. It's spreading it around a little. I
Yeah.
got that house and that house, so we're good. You can't
If
flood
it-
them all.
If it's, yeah, if you got it in an asset and you have a big debt on it, inflation's your friend. The
Yeah,
more
that's true.
inflation
That's
there
true.
is, less is you have to pay on it.
Yeah,
so.
we're going to talk about shorting stuff like long-term fixed debt on a residential property, 30-year fixed. That's the best way to short the dollar that there is because it's helped by inflation rather than harmed by it. So these are the
think-
kinds of things your financial
I think
planner
if they
never tells you.
if they looked at it with abundance, I'm a financial planner and this is only what I know. This is
Mhm.
my niche. However, yes, you have this interest. Yes, you want to go over here. I don't know anything about that market, but maybe it's something we can learn together or let's try to make sure and help them vet who and what they're doing. Because then at the end of the day, that individual is going to remember that you help look out for them and their money. It doesn't have to be their niche. They have to be open-minded to it. I do understand that it is all compensation and everything too.
And there is. So there's RIs. I met one at the show.
all right.
Yeah, RIA.
They are out there.
Only did alternative
Yes.
assets. So his earlier part of his career was in the equity market, and he not just again we're at Best Ever, so we're all pretty much focused on real estate. But when they see the other side and they see the types of risk return profiles that you can get out of real estate, it's more eye opening. So I would like for advice, like if you want a financial planner, try to find somebody who is diversified and is not just locked in. If you're going to go to the big companies, Edward Jones, Charles Schwab, they're going to only be doing the equity market. So
Mhm.
they're,
Public equities.
yes, the public
Or
equities.
they're doing money markets. Some of them are doing
Yes.
insurance products. So but we're talking about publicly available products,
Yes.
basket.
They will most likely not have any private equity
No.
in their portfolio. And they'll probably tell you that it's risky, stay away from it.
Mhm.
So you want to try and find an advisor that is more open to different alternatives and different aspects, and then learn what the risks are. And hopefully they should know what the risks are, and then you can be able to make educated decisions based off of
I
that.
think my only biggest thing for anyone would be one, if you have your money somewhere, and I don't care who, what, and why, and they're trying to tell you no, and because they have the biggest benefit of your money being there, that is a number one red flag for me of
Yes.
I need to remove all my money from them because they're not looking out for my best interest. And I understand, like, it's not just you that they need to look out for. But at the end of the day, if they are trying to hold you hostage, your money hostage, and they're trying to instill fear in you, that is not a good relationship.
Mm-mm.
That is not where you want your money to be.
Because they're fearful and that fear of losing you as a client is coming across and them trying to instill fear in you. So I think that is probably the biggest red flag that I see. But also just understanding there's a culture in financial planning. And like we meet lots of them that do not fit the stereotype. But the stereotype in the culture is that what they can't sell you, you shouldn't be investing in. And they don't tend to refer you out to specialists, which is what you're going to see with lawyers Even accountants are like, oh, I can't handle your complicated real estate. You're going to have to find somebody else new. Or a lawyer saying, hey, we need to bring in a tax attorney here. Even though they're not going to get those billable hours, the other attorney is. There's still a culture of saying, I don't know everything. Let's go outside that. So just wrap this up. I just want to briefly mention, we probably should have done this at the beginning, but the difference between a certified financial planner and a registered investment advisor. So an investment advisor is a sub niche of financial planning, and they're going to help you with specific investments, either public or private. And a certified financial planner is more of somebody who's going to help you with your entire
With
financial
taxes,
portfolio. You're
yep.
going to have tax planning, they're going to have your
Trust.
insurance products, and they're going to have a fee system that's either based by the hour and just fee-based consulting, or they're going to have commission where they only are getting commission on the products that they can sell you, or you're going to have a hybrid approach, and you have to decide which of those fee structures you want to go with. I personally tend to prefer a hybrid approach because I want them to make money when I buy a product from them, but I also want to make sure that they're giving me unbiased advice. So as we're looking for a financial planner who can help us through the jungle of private markets as we get more into that, those are the things that I'm considering. What would you say, just to, like I said, to wrap it up, what's the most important consideration with you? Certified financial planner, registered investment advisor, and what type of fee structure?
I don't know if I would necessarily look at the fee structure. I think you got to be aware of the fee structure.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be pros and cons regardless of how you do it. You just got to weigh the pros and cons out for yourself and make sure that you're comfortable with it. I think it's just more educating yourself. As far as financial planner, I'm gonna be honest, I just want to look at their track history, what they've done, how they've performed, and make a decision based off of that. What kind of
Well,
services they offer as
and
well.
how they are when you start to sit down and talk with them. Like you can look at all of that. They can have this great, amazing resume. But I also want to have those conversations with them to
Make sure they're
understand
a
it.
good person.
Make sure they're a good person. I have all my
That's
money
true.
with you today, but tomorrow I want half to go into this. What is that going to look like? If they're going to give me this long, drawn out process, then sorry.
I also want them to be calling me up and saying, hey, I just found this out. It can save you a whole ton of money. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I find that the advisors that we do have as we're building our group of professionals, I just like them to call every once in a while and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you heard about this? Or checking in, making sure we're hitting our milestones. You got a call from our insurance agent this morning by accident, right? He called the wrong number. Well, it's funny because every once in a while he will just call out of the blue like that and just see how we're doing with our
You got to
planning.
build your
So,
team. Your team, they all
Mhm.
got to match.
Yep. And when we're in town, like if they're not in the same town as we are, when we travel, like we'll stop and we'll have lunch with them and just sit down and make sure that there's a good fit there. So we have a lot of different professionals that we rely on. We don't have one person that oversees everything. I don't know if we're ever get to that point. Maybe when we start a family office, we'll have to think about that. But just making sure that your professionals line up with your personal goals, what questions to ask, and just making sure that you're not being led down their path, that you are making sure that your professionals match your path. So hopefully that was helpful. I interview lots of financial professionals on my podcast, and we all have used them. So if you need any referrals, again, we can't give you any professional advice. We don't make any referral income, but if you would like to talk about some professionals who might be able to advise you on the types of investing that we do, especially if you're wanting to invest with us, we would love to have that conversation with you. So just go to partnerwithrise.com and jump
Yep.
on our calendar, and we'd love to have that conversation.
Yep. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Kaka hai kaka.